maybe if you can just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself and how long have you been in the industry? I guess maybe also, Andrew, popping through to there, have you seen staffing issues as they are now ever before? Welcome.
Thank you, Michael. Great to be here. To answer that question first up, no, I haven't experienced this before. It's certainly been very challenging, but it's also given us an opportunity, I think, to have a look at the way we run our business, because the future does change very quickly. So I think as much as it's been very challenging, it's been a terrific opportunity for us all. Regarding my background in property management, I began in 1988, and since I began, I've only worked for 3 firms in real estate, and all of them have been excellent companies. The first one was in Mitcham, Drake and Company, which was a family business which had a very strong emphasis on property management, both residential and commercial, as well as a strong sales business. And I was there for 3.5 years. I then progressed to Philip Webb, which most people here would know. That business was about 400 properties when I joined, and I left when it was about 1,600 properties. So had many terrific experiences during my time there, which enabled me to join Fletchers, which hadn't been big in property management over the years. They'd been in it, been out of it, and then they decided to focus on it again. And I was given a terrific opportunity to come in and use my experience to shape and mould the department. And when I joined, we had about 80 properties, and now we've got around 2,100, and we're across a number of councils in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne. So that's basically a bit of an update as to my background in real estate. So yeah.
So isn't it interesting, Andrew, you've been in the 3 positions over 24 years? Is that what my maths works out to?
I started in 88, so I've been with Fletchers for 23, so 88.
So we're looking now, if you have a look at the average tenure of some staff, I think some studies are showing that it's 9 to 12 months. It's a different breed, isn't it? It's a different level now than what it was when I guess you first started.
Yeah, look, over the journey, I have seen a bit of change in property management, and I believe it's because it is such a challenging job that you have to wear so many hats. And some people are up for that challenge and are resilient more than others, and progress and see it as a career. I certainly did from the beginning, and naturally still do. But certainly what's happened in recent times with changes, the legislation's been a massive one that none of us have experienced. The last one was in about 1992, I think, and the changes then weren't that big. We thought there was a few big ones in there, but nothing like now with over 130, as well as all the compliance. And I would say probably between 30 and 40% more work has been put on a PM department with these changes. And yeah, it's been a real challenge as to how to navigate through. But again, I see it's an opportunity for those who are, as firms and people, going to continue in property management to gain some more market share and set themselves up well for the future.
So Andrew, how long was the planning for you at Fletchers within the group and the leadership to prepare for the rollout? Because there are still some officers that think that it's okay now, March 2022, to be operating the same as they were pre-legislation changes.
As soon as we had some understanding of what was coming in, and there was talk about what was, and a lot of it ended up being true, we engaged some outside consultation to give us a bit of a view on what they felt was coming. And from there, we started to prepare and started to think about how we were going to navigate our way through. And it's been a constant work in progress.
Yes.
Things keep changing, as we know. I think what we did well prior to the pandemic and certainly legislation change coming in was that we adopted what we felt was the best cloud-based software at the time. So that set us up really well. And that's always a bold move, changing software. But we also looked at our structure of the department, and we'd historically had me running it with some really good people working alongside as senior people, as property managers. But back then we looked at our business and said, we started to do some acquisitions. if we're going to want to continue to grow our business and be really good at it, we need to have a look at how we structure the business and have the right model in place. So I'm very fortunate that I have 4 ladies that work with me in a management team, 2 of which have been with us for 17 years. Another one is 12, and I think the other is 10. And they have specific roles. And that leads into, a question will come, and I'll touch on it now, about retention. Is I think for those people who have bigger businesses, they really should be looking at how they can structure their department for the benefit of the future, the current and the future, but also retaining people. And for us, doing that was one of the, I think, main reasons why I've been able to retain some of these people with me for so long, is that they were given very senior positions, basically running teams as I used to. And also they've progressed now to being partners in the business. So the directors were very good in introducing more partners in the business, this time property management. So I think, the answer to your question was, we had some good trial run with the way the real estate economy was, change in software, looking at our business once we started acquiring for the future, so it would continue to evolve. And then we've been very quick to read the play on what needs to be done to meet the current challenges of the new legislation with safety checks, minimum standards, education of clients, internal training, which we're into our 2nd year on. We're doing a lot of that with an external consultant. We spent time with Michael last year. So I think businesses have had to work smarter and a bit harder in respect to running their property management departments, and those who are prepared to put in that effort, whilst it's very difficult and been very tricky the last 12 months, as time goes on and we get into a groove, it will really sort of sort out who's going to continue and who's not. And one of the good things about the legislation that's come in, I believe, is whilst it's a struggle now, over time it will sort out those people who should have investment properties and shouldn't. And if agencies make the right decision about what they take on and don't take on, and have what I've always believed with property management rent roll is a long-term approach, you'll build a really good business, and you'll be able to secure your future more so.
So what I took from that, Andrew, the thing that came out very early, and I already know the business from the work that we did last year, but it's about a career plan. So I guess if you're sitting there, you don't want to have, you can't really offer a property manager or someone coming in and saying, stay with me today, here's your job, here are your 50, 100 tasks, and in 5 years' time, I expect that you're going to be doing the same thing. So you have to be able to offer, I think, internally, if I'm reading this correctly, some sort of development, some structured development plan, a career plan, training. So I think gone are the days where we're saying to somebody, come in, here's a portfolio, there's a phone, there's the database, off you go. Yeah. Would I be correct in?
Yeah, definitely. And one other thing whilst you were talking then, I forgot to mention, was that we also looked at our model of property management, and we, when I started in real estate, it was task-based. So people did specific roles, and that worked. But it was, without the technology of today, it was probably a more difficult way of doing it. And then Tony Warren from Woodards in Camberwell at the time brought in portfolio management, which end-to-end with one person. That's worked very well for a number of years, but again, with the demands and pressures now, we decided to change our model and go to a task-based system, which again has allowed us to bring in people at different levels, because otherwise, if you're still doing portfolio end-to-end, people were really, it's getting near on impossible to cope, and economically you've got to make it work for your business. And secondly, the burnout factor, was a real problem. So in allowing us to change up the roles that we had available, which means you could bring someone in and they could progress from an inspection consultant role, perhaps if they've shown the ability, to be given an opportunity to be a junior portfolio with a new portfolio. There's also opportunities in business development, maintenance, routine inspections. So, I think changing up what we did and really putting some thought into it, whilst it's been challenging and it's, it's difficult when you do make those change and re-engineer your business, we are seeing certainly the light at the end of the tunnel as time progresses.
You also need to have the have a plan, but willing to back it, but if it's not working, and you'll know really quickly, be prepared to come back just a little bit. So from a retention point of view, have you noticed in the last, let's just say 6 months, so from the back end of our last lockdown here in Victoria, have you noticed a significant drop off, whether it's within your business, and I know that you network well with other agents as well, but are you hearing that there's a lot of people that are moving? And if they are they moving to other offices, or are they moving out of the industry?
Yeah, it's definitely a combination. We sort of experienced it after the first lockdown finished. People decided to make movement. We did see people leave the industry when they left us. We had a few people who moved to other organisations, but what we have seen is people moving because they've been offered more money. And as an employer, if that happens to you, you need to make a decision naturally on how you manage that. And people who are worthwhile, who you feel there's a future with, I think you do need to look at having a discussion with them about the offer and what it all means. But I think it's been a combination of both.
Yeah, and Andrew, the blend, and it's probably the one that we've spoken about previously, but the blend of work from home versus back in the office, let's just call it Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, with every 1 in 4 Saturdays, which was typically the role that was being advertised for. You really can't advertise for that anymore because you're not going to get anybody apply, are you?
Well, it's hard to get people at the moment. So again, we looked at, we followed the government directives, which Ron articulated. We were very conscious of looking after the health and wellbeing of our people, as well as our business. So we've had a lot of people home for 2 years now. The people that are out and about are people who need to be on the road, such as inspection consultants, property managers. A lot of people have enjoyed working from home. So we've worked with that. And there's some who want to come back to the office. And now that we've been able to, under government directive, to be able to do that, we've allowed those people to come back because we want to work with people so that we create that environment where they enjoy working at the firm. And we're finding that's working really well for us. So our plan in the future is probably to have people back 2 to 3 days. We haven't quite, I suppose, made a final decision on that. But we do believe there is a need to have people back in the offices because of the culture in working with the sales team, working with each other, the knowledge which has been mentioned about being able to sit next to someone and discuss things with them, as well as people, I suppose, wanting to be out of their home, because some people can't separate working from home and their job. So we think it's a matter of having those conversations with people and allowing sensible flexibility. And I think if you have key performance indicators in place, that really gives you the feedback as to how it's working from home. And we're pleased to say that our people have been very diligent, and we think probably in nearly every case they've been working more so because they've been very conscious of to do their role well, but they've also had that flexibility. So the survey results that we get from clients, I think it's working well.
And Andrew, just on that, so you're happy to share, you actually use NPS, Net Promoter Score. You're using ALO now. So you, I think this is bragging rights. Are you happy to share with what your numbers are?
Yeah, look, our numbers have been pretty good. We have noticed a little bit of a change recently, and we think that what is not going down well with rental providers at the moment is the costs involved with the minimum standards, more so the safety checks, and some frights that people are getting in having to replace gas lines, heaters, hot water services. So that, we feel, has had a bit of an impact on our NPS. We were sitting up around +70, which was as high as the people on ALO. Recently, it's dropped back a bit, but we're still sitting at probably around 40, which is if you look at the definition of Net Promoter Score, it's world class at that level. So it's a tricky period, as I've mentioned, that we're going through. We're just working as hard as we can with our people and our clients to get through. And look, overall, really happy with the feedback that we're getting from our clients.
And KPIs, I've just, as we start to wound up, you've got some KPIs. Sorry, just on the Net Promoter Score, the negative, most reports will show that property management is somewhere in the negative 20s as a general rule. So if you're sitting at 40, that's a switch of 60%, 60 points. And if you're up towards the 70, it's actually a significant change to the other end of the pendulum. As we wrap up, Andrew, maybe just KPIs, and then we'll move straight into where do you see the issues around the entry level to the minimum education levels? How do you see that impacting us longer term?
Okay, with key performance indicators, we think it's really important that each role has those in place, and our department heads and myself, I look after the business development team. We meet once a month with our people to give them individual feedback and have two-way discussion as to how things are progressing. And that gives us clarity as to how someone is performing, as to sometimes there's perception and reality, sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're different. But we believe that's really important, and you know, it's obvious, but you've got to work hard to get your key performance indicators set up and make sure they're appropriate in measuring staff performance. So we're finding that works really well, and it gives people some vision and clarity and feedback from us. With the licensing requirements, I don't think they've got that right. The amount of time it takes for someone to do the course, the cost involved is really having an impact on our pool of people. We've always been keen to get a balance between recruiting from the industry, because there is some gold out there where people need a change and need to come into what they believe is an organisation that will give them the right support. But at the moment, pretty difficult to do that with what's come in. So we think that really needs to be looked at quick smart, because it's putting undue pressure certainly on property management businesses in the industry.
Yeah, I think the benefit was that we were able to get national recognition of our licenses, but the negative towards that was the significant change from the 4 units to the 18 units for a brand new entrant to join the industry, which was, anyone that knew our industry at that stage would consider that to be laughable, but it went through. Andrew, thank you ever so much. Are you comfortable if anyone was to reach out to you? Not that we want people reaching out and wasting your time, but if anyone had a specific question, would you be comfortable for someone to reach out and have a chat? It's obviously networking as well.
Certainly, yeah. I've built some pretty good friendships with people over the years. There's a couple who are in the are online today who I've met, and we've developed friendships, and we ring each other from time to time to see how we're faring and run information past each other. So more than happy.
Fantastic. Thank you. I've just popped your details back up there. If we can give a big round of applause for Andrew, and mainly because he was prepared to actually share what he's doing inside of his business. And sometimes we're out and it's cutthroat, and we're wanting to be out to take work from each other. But I find that the most generous people are those that are prepared to share and give. And I think I was having a chat with Simon about this yesterday. Andrew could put his whole business plan on his website if he wanted to. Just because it's there doesn't mean anyone else is going to go out and implement it. So as agents, we have this analysis paralysis, I think it is. We get all the information, but we find that we don't actually implement. So this is the whole peer opportunity for you to be able to actually connect and find out some information that another practitioner. So thanks, mate. I really, really, really appreciate you doing that.